Okay, hi everybody. I'm going to do an explainer video on the simple setup that I've been using lately, and for those of you who see my other video of my little piece of music that I did using these two, you'll know I'm great fans of these two. I think they complement each other really well, but I'm going to start off with the Erebus, with the Dreadbox Erebus. I'm just going to start off just showing one oscillator first, and then later I'm going to add in sounds from the circuit. And we're just going to build up a little track. I'm just going to do a little bit of noodlings really for you, just to try and explain what's going on. So I'm going to start with oscillator 1. I'm just going to start with the step sequencer from the circuit. And I've just got 1 bar loop going here, so I've got 16 beats. So when I press beat number 1, that's the note I've got first, second note, third note, fourth, and so on. And I can just go through. If I want to change any of the notes at any time, I can just press that one, put that one in instead. Put that other note back in. So I'm just going to use that as my 1 bar sequence. So when I press play on the circuit, it starts off playing on the Erebus. Now at the moment I'm using synth number 2 on the circuit, which is always set to MIDI channel number 2, and I've set up the Erebus so that it receives on MIDI channel number 2, so synth 2 will always trigger the sounds on the Erebus. At the moment I haven't got any of the sounds switched on at the moment from the circuit, so all you're hearing is just the Dreadbox Erebus. So just one oscillator is on at the moment. I've got oscillator number 2 is switched off at the moment, and oscillator 1 I've got on a square wave. So when I press play, this is my square wave. I've not got any effects added to this. I am going to add in a bit of delay later as we go on. But because I've got my square wave going, I'm just going to use the LFO, and I'm going to patch that into the pulse width, and it'll just add a little bit of width to the sound. Okay, now I can control the rate and the depth of these, so you can go crazy with it. You can almost get it to do like a sub-octave as well on there. That's just using the depth control, but I'm just going to take that rate back and the depth, just so it's more musically useful for me, alright, just to add a bit of width to the sound. I'll unplug it, that's what it's like without. That's what it's like in, and it just adds a bit of width to it. Okay, so I'm going to add in oscillator number 2 now, and I'm going to add in a saw wave on there. So that's added in a saw wave an octave above. And I can mix these two, so that's oscillator 1 set to a square wave. I can turn the mix over. Oscillator number 2 set to a sawtooth an octave above. Just slightly detuned as well. So those are the oscillators that are going at the moment. Now I'm just going to add in a little bit of delay from the lo-fi. It is a digital delay, but it is a lo-fi. So just turn the mix up a little bit just to add in, not very much feedback on the delay there, just to add in a little bit of ambience really. Just going to turn the filter down just a little bit. So I'm just going to leave that going away on its own at the moment, and I'm going to go over to the circuit, and I'm going to press synth number 1. This is a whole different sound, so it doesn't affect synth number 2. Press shift and note, and all of these pads become notes for me to play. Now this is a pad sound that I've set up on it, and I've set it up so I've got 4 octaves available for me to play. So I'm just going to sort of add something on top of what the Erebus is doing at the moment. I've added in octaves. So I can just add things on top of what this is doing at the moment. Now Now I'm just going to change oscillator number 1. I'm going to change that over to a saw wave as well. And I'm going to unpatch that, so I've got 2 saw waves going at the moment. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to patch in the LFO is now going to trigger the filter, so it'll open and close the filter for me. So you'll hear that cycling round. Now I'm going to turn the rate down on the LFO, just so it'll sweep through quite nicely, opening and closing this filter for me. Just adds a little bit of movement. And you can set the rate down. It's a very slow rate, so it'll actually cycle through and open and close this filter in a very slow way as well, if you want it to. Don't want it opening and closing quite that fast, and I'm going to just set it to about there. Okay, so I've got the beginnings of a really nice little piece of music going on here. So let me just explain what I'm doing on the circuit. The circuit I've got set, it's got a minor key going on here, which is quite a nice key just to do a bit of noodlings with. Okay, so I've got it set up in 4 octaves of build, so each row represents an octave. So I've got low note. Again, this is a pad sound that I've set up on here. Believe it or not, the circuit is capable of doing these pad sounds as well. So I've got 2 octaves there. I can add in, at the moment, this particular sound is a polyphonic sound, and you can have 6-note polys, and this is just using synth number 1, okay? So I've got 3 octaves going here. I'll add in a 5th. I can add in the extra high octave. So I can add those in, so I've got 6 notes going there. So that's what I'm doing, that's all I'm adding, and I've got reverb and delay that are added onto just this sound coming from the circuit. Let me just press play again. Okay, I'm going to go to mixer on here, and these are a few, this is a 1-bar drum loop that I've got going on here. Go back to my synth number 1. Okay, just going to add in a few more drums that I've got going here. Again, it's just a 1-bar loop that I've got going on the drums. Go back to my synth number 1. Okay, go back to my mix. I'm going to take the drums out. So this is just the sounds coming from the error bus at the moment. So what I'm going to do now, because synth number 2 is just triggering the error bus, synth number 2 on the circuit also has a sound that'll play at the same time, and I'm just going to add that in now. So you can just hear that. This is the sound from the circuit joined in with the sound from the error bus. And the sound on the circuit, I've added some reverb and delays on this as well, but only from the circuit. So I'll add in some of my drums. take the drums out. It's going to take the sound out of the circuit as well, so I'm just left again with the Erebus sounds. I can open up this filter, I'll open up the resonance a little bit as well. Again, the LFO is patched in, so it's triggering, it's just opening and closing, sweeping through this filter for me. I'll open up the cutoff so you can get all of those sounds as well if you want. Okay, whilst that's doing that, I'm just going to go back to my synth number 1 a minute. And I'm going to add in this delay. Now at the moment the delay on the Erebus is set so that the mix is just giving me a little bit of, just adds a little bit of texture to it at the moment. Now as I turn the feedback up, it's a really lo-fi, it's a digital delay but it is lo-fi. And as I turn this feedback up it will start to feed back on itself, but you can control it. Just feeding back on itself. I'm going to press stop on the sequencer now. So you can just hold that feedback there. Okay, so I hope that's helpful everybody. Thank you so much for watching.